The next call is a split call. David Clendon, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Just a brief call to reiterate our support for this bill. As the point's been made that currently we have 50-year-old legislation that is no longer fit for purpose, that is enabling probably an excessive intervention to the term of a 2-year detention period, that has too few safeguards to protect the well-being of the people whose rights to make decision on their own behalf are being taken away from them. It seems that the focus of this new legislation is much more about how quickly can we return people to a condition where they can make their own decisions about their own treatment. The threshold within this bill for compulsory treatment is set very high, and that's as it should be. Many of these people will be in a situation where, in fact, their lives are at stake, and as a result directly of ingesting these substances or of the behaviours associated with that. So while the threshold is high, we do think that this legislation strikes a much better balance between obliging people to undertake treatment which is necessary to their well-being while protecting their human rights, ensuring that there are not an overly draconian intervention, if you like, from the state. So I thought one of the most useful submissions was from the Addiction Practitioners Association of Aotearoa, New Zealand. It scoped out the breadth and the depth of the situation out there in terms of treating people with these very, very severe addictions. It highlighted both the shortcomings in the existing legislation and also pointed to some of the key principles and what will emerge as practice under the new legislation. I guess it also rang a few bells. One particularly the association referenced, and it has come up before, is that we can have good legislation. It will only succeed if it is properly resourced. The expectation is that currently we see 70 to 80 people a year being treated under the existing rules. We could expect that to increase to about 200 people a year. Excuse me. There needs to be an investment into ensuring that this much improved legislative tool will get better outcomes, and the only way to assure that is to make sure that it is properly resourced. The association expressed some concern that it wasn't evident to them, at least, exactly where the funding would be channelled, and I think that's a fair challenge. And in the spirit of goodwill, I do think that's something that we do, given that this bill seems to have parliamentary-wide support, that there will be a serious and determined effort to make sure that the funding does get to the place where it can do the most good and where we can see much better outcomes than we have. I do think, sir, that it's an area I have a great admiration for people who work in the field of addiction. They are dealing with people who are at their very worst, and they must be incredibly difficult people to deal with. Frankly, I don't believe I would be someone who could work in that environment, working with those people, to the level of patience, the level of compassion, the level of commitment to getting a much better outcome for these people. I mean, there must be very special people working in this environment, and I do hope we continue to resource those people to enable them to get their work done and to get it done well.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair for the dinner break. This debate is interrupted, and I shall resume the chair at 7:30.